We are back talking about the thing we needed to improve as men.
Me, another thing that I've improved on, understanding and prioritizing the importance of the family unit. As a man, understanding that family unit is everything. Success leaves clues. For me, I understand that the generational wealth comes from having a generational wealth mindset.
My first point, taking care and taking responsibility of my overall health, mental health, also my physical health as well, preparing myself for a better future. My second point, not having expectations of anything, making a decision and detaching myself from the outcome. Don't expect everybody to always come through for you.
Consistency has allowed us to reach some level of success.
That's why we're having this conversation essentially focused around growth. Let's get exposed. Welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show. I'm the man with the plan, Jeremy Mathis.
I'm Joshua. I'm going to give you the game, Mathis, and welcome to another edition of the Expose and Expand podcast show, where we expose you to the ideas, the strategies, the struggles, the failures, the people, and the experiences that have gotten us from zero to millions.
We're picking up exactly where we left off in last episode. We are back talking about the things that we needed to improve as men. So from the time we turned 18 up until where we are right now, we're reflecting on our journey in manhood. And we're looking at all the things that we had to learn and the things that we've had to improve to become better. This conversation is a conversation that's needed, as Josh and I believe that more men need to step up, be better, and grow. And that's why we're having this conversation essentially focused around growth. Let's get exposed.
And guys, as always, man, we would appreciate your support. We want to definitely grow the show. We want to expose other people to the show. So if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And if you're listening on any of the podcast players, please hit that follow button and leave us a 5-star review.
Yes, guys, we appreciate the support. But today, again, we're picking up where we left off last week and just focusing more on growth and where we've had to grow as men in areas. If you didn't watch last week's episode, you definitely need to watch last week's episode to see some of the points that we're talking about. And we wanted to keep it all in one episode, but we had so many growth areas where we had to split it up into a part 2. And today is part 2 of the conversation that we had in the last episode. So what's another thing that you've had to improve on?
I just want to make this clear too, guys. Even today's episode won't be all the points and all the things that we needed to improve on. It's just really the key points that we wanted to hit and points that we know will add value to you guys as the audience. But for me, another thing that I've improved on as a man is understanding and prioritizing the importance of the family unit. Understanding and prioritizing the importance of the family unit. So for Jeremy and I growing up, we didn't have a father figure in the house, and that created some struggles and some traumas for us. And also for me, as I've grown, I've studied the greats. I've studied people who've had success in different areas of their life that I want to have, whether it's family, whether it's their finances, whether it's their faith, whether it's their business. And one thing that they all had in common is they have a strong family unit. They have a support system. They have a woman or a spouse by their side that's pushing them, that's supporting them, that's there during those down times, that's encouraging them. They have kids that's supporting them. They have, and their kids is also their legacy. So for me, that's one of the things that as I've grown as a man, I've really started to put a priority on understanding, hey, my family, that family unit is everything.
So is that to say that someone needs a family in order to be successful?
No. So I don't think I'm not saying you need a family to be successful, but success leaves clues. And if you're looking at most billionaires, most centimillionaires, they all have a family. They all have a significant other. They all have a spouse. They all have a strong support system around them. There are several people who may not be married, may not have kids, and yeah, they can be successful. But for me and where I am in my life, right, I have kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I understand that my kids are going to be going along with me on this journey. And as I study other people, they've put a strong priority on their family unit.
Got you. What ways do you put a strong priority on your family unit? Help us understand, what does that look like in your life?
So for me, number one, with Queen, understanding like that our relationship is number one, prioritizing her and prioritizing making sure that we're both happy within our family, making sure that we both are growing. Also, me and her have weekly check-ins. Every week we're checking in with each other. Hey babe, you good? How you doing? Anything I can improve on? Anything you want to see me do differently? Where are we in this in our relationship? Right? Are we on the good? Are we on the the good side of the scale? We on the bad side of the scale? That's just one way. Another way with prioritizing the family unit is ensuring that I'm setting my kids up for success. Most people talk about generational wealth and they talk about leaving something to their kids. For me, I understand that the generational wealth comes from having a generational wealth mindset. So for me, imparting wisdom into my kids, making sure they do their affirmations, understanding that they know how to use money, making sure that they can survive without me being here, making sure that what happened to our family doesn't happen to to me. Meaning when Pop died, our grandfather died, that cut, basically I wouldn't say like it cut the family dynamic, right? So for me, like, he was the breadwinner, he was the mastermind behind everything happening in the family. And for me, I want to avoid that. If something was to happen to me today, I want to make sure that my kids can continue to build off the foundation that I've laid.
That's really good. And so many people talk about generational wealth. It's a common thing right now, generational wealth, but it's always focused on money. You touched on something that I want to make sure that the audience doesn't miss, which is a generational wealth mindset. And nobody really talks about that. In order to keep this going generationally after generation, is we got to be able to work hard. We got to be able to live with integrity. We got to be honest. And those are things that I do think that a lot of people miss when they talk about the generational wealth. It's just not the money, it's also the mindset. So great point there.
And another point I want to make about the family unit was, and it's just me being real and authentic. Like, if you guys don't know, I've said it several times before, I've been through a divorce. And when you go through a divorce and you experience some of the traumas that I've had, it shapes your thought system and your belief system. And for me, after that, I was the first guy saying, hey, I would never get married again. I would never do this again. But thankfully, God put a woman in my life who opened my eyes to show me that, hey, this is what a relationship should be like. And also, I've grown, obviously, as well. But now understanding that if the family unit is important to me, my commitment to my family should be a priority. And how do I show that commitment to LaVon? I'm asking her to marry me. You know what I'm saying? So understanding that for a man, one of the highest forms of commitment that you can show a woman is asking for her hand in marriage. So for me, if I want her to operate at her highest self and her highest being for this family, I need to show her that I'm committed to her.
Wait. You just made an announcement?
She already knows it's coming.
Oh, okay.
She knows it's coming. She knows it's coming.
Wait, made an announcement. Nah. You heard it first on Expose and Expand podcast show.
Nah, she knows it's coming. She knows it's coming. And it's just, but again, for a long time, because of what I went through with my ex, and I'm not bashing her at all. I've had a lot of growing that I needed to do, but just going through that divorce, I said to myself, I don't never want to do this again.
So Josh's first point, what he needed to improve is understanding and prioritizing the family unit. For me, my first point of today's episode, where I needed to improve on as a man, is taking care and taking responsibility of my overall health, mental health, also my physical health as well. And when I was younger, I used to eat crap all the time, and not realizing how the body is a sponge. The body can take so much, just like a sponge. It can take so many washings, so many beatings before it eventually dies out and it's no longer any good. And so often people, they live their life, and let me not say people. So often I used to live my life like, I work out, so what I eat doesn't matter. And luckily, we've had people in our life, like one of our contractors, who's always stressed us, guys, don't put that trash in your body. Don't put that trash in your body. When you get older, you want your penis to work. Excuse that language, but that's what he used to always say. And he's always like, guys, you want everything to work when you get older. He's an older gentleman, and he used to always remind us of that. And for me, as I've gotten older, I'm 32, about to turn 33 now. And when I wake up, my body just feels a little bit different. These aches and pains don't go away as quick as they used to. And my body is telling me that I need you to take better care of me. So now I've improved that aspect of of my life and really living out and embodying the true essence of what it means to live health is wealth. So you may ask me, how do I take care of my mental health? Just doing affirmations every day. Also just meditating and making sure that my mental is in the right space and just not being around negative energy. And for my physical health, if y'all follow your boys on the gram, you see I'm in the gym or doing yoga at minimum 5 times a week, really living this out. So as I've gotten older, I've really taken a very conscious effort and I've improved in my overall health for mental and my physical.
And one thing that, as you mentioned, both of us have taken a stance and moving in that direction. But for you personally, like, what was the deciding factor, that aha moment that said, hey, you know what, I got to take my mental health and my physical health very seriously?
For the mental, it was me and Ash just when going through just relationship problems and drama, and having some I wouldn't even say mental issues, but some insecurities that turned into like just some mental challenges that I had.
Like what?
And great question. It was me and Ash just going through relationship stuff, just growing in our relationship. Just growing in our relationship, and me doing things that I had no business doing, her doing things that kind of went against what I thought a relationship was, and that challenged some insecurities that I had coming into our relationship. So that messed up my mental well-being, and it triggered a lot of insecurities, which started to turn into some negativity in my mind. How I overcame that was I started meditating and I started doing my affirmations, telling myself I'm that guy, I'm that boy, I can make great things happen, and just really building up my mental. So it was a turning point there when I started to realize that I was insecure and I wasn't being who I needed to be. That was on the mental side. On the physical side, I think luckily for us, exposure leads to expansion. Just being able to be in high school and starting out in high school, understanding you got to work out, you got to take care of yourself. It was something that was ingrained in us. Then we stopped doing it in college, and I put on more weight than I wanted to, and I started to realize I just don't want to be a fat, unhealthy person. I don't want that. And for me, luckily, the exercising has always been something that I know that I need to do and I continuously to do. So it was just preparing myself for a better future. Yeah, say it more simpler.
One thing that you said that I hope you guys didn't miss is the positive self-talk, especially with all this, the conversation around mental health, and everyone's having mental health issues and mental health breakdowns. And I'm not discrediting people from having that, but one thing I will say is, like, you got to be careful how you talk to yourself, right? Positive self-talk is so important. And if you're constantly telling yourself you can't do something, if you're constantly telling yourself I'm fat, I'm ugly, like, that is going to live in your subconscious, and that's going to start living in your life, and you're going to become that person. So just ensure that you guys are talking positively to yourself. But no, that was definitely a great first point that you made. For me, the second point that I want to make today on how I've improved as a man is I've become intentional about the core areas of my life, which is family, faith, fitness, and finances. I become very intentional about those areas because those are the 4 areas that really that define who you are as a person, in my opinion. So for me, just to give you guys some example, when it comes to my faith, it was more so I was playing with my relationship with God. And no means am I, the best person on earth, but now I'm intentional about prayer. I'm intentional about serving at church. I'm intentional about making sure I go to service, not only to edify myself, not only to grow closer to my believer, but also to set the example for my kids. It's important that my kids see me growing in my faith, because that my faith guides me, and then also it helps me during those difficult times. And then it's the same thing in other areas of my life. Like I said, family, fitness, and my finance. I've been intentional about ensuring that my family is a priority and ensuring that I'm setting my family up for success, ensuring that that family unit is together. For my fitness, as Jeremy just mentioned, we're both on this health journey, not just a mental one, but on a physical one as well, doing the yoga, working out. And then the last thing, the finances, making sure that I have my finances in order, because before it was just always blowing money, spending money. Now it's, hey, what's the budget? Saying no to people. Hey, you can't borrow money. So those are just a few things, a few examples on breaking down those 4 core areas.
I was thinking about this just yesterday as far as the intentions or being intentional. And at what point do we stop being intentional? At what point do we become an intentional human being and we move with intention? So I'm going to ask you that. Like, what helped you become and understand the power of moving with intention?
Exposure. Getting exposed. Being around the right people. Seeing other people. Like, when you're having these conversations, when I say to my pastor, my spiritual leader, shout out to Pastor Terrence, hey man, I'm struggling in my faith. I'm having these issues, and he's asking me, hey, well, are you praying? Are you reading your word? Right? You got to be intentional about it. So for me, exposure was one of the biggest things that helped me understand that I need to prioritize those things. And I'll give you a perfect example. On the fitness side of things, our entire family, if we've been real, is unhealthy. They're on diabetic pills, blood pressure pills, going to the doctor for this and that. And we got exposed to, hey, this is what happens when you don't take care of yourself. And that's not what I want for me. So it's just being intentional about, the fitness side of things.
Got you. Great second point by you. My second point, second thing that I needed to improve on as a man is not having expectations of anything. Making a decision and detaching myself from the outcome. So often in life, so many bad things happen, or things happen that we don't expect to happen, and that's when our life goes in disarray because we set expectations up. And I'm not telling you not to have expectations of your partner or certain things, but when I talk about expectations, I'm saying that don't be upset if somebody lets you down. Don't expect everybody to always come through for you. If they do, awesome. If they don't, hey, then you got a decision to make. For me, I used to always get upset when things didn't go how I planned it in my mind. And that created a lot of anxiety. It created a lot of things that I didn't need in my life. So I've learned as a man to, yes, again, have expectations, but not have expectations of everything and people.
So what I, from my understanding of that, have expectations on the things you can control.
Yes.
And don't have expectations on the things you can't control.
Great.
Okay, because it was like, don't have expectations of people. And I was like, I disagree with that. You should have expectations of people, but when they don't follow through, don't allow that to control you and your feelings and emotions.
Yes, that's a great. Thank you for saying that better than I could have. Yes, you need. That's what I was trying to figure out a way to say it where, yes, you need to have expectations, but helping people understand. Don't get mad when things don't work out the way that you want them to. Is a simpler way to put that, because so often we put things in our mind like we thought. On plantation, we thought we was gonna make $100,000 on that. We end up losing 2,000 or 2,500 or whatever we lost on the project. How you go from listing a house thinking you're gonna make $100,000 to a couple months you losing money? The old me would have been very upset. I could not control anything about that house. The old me would have been very upset. My expectations was, oh, this is what I put in my mind, that's gonna happen. So I hope I've done a better job of helping people understand the message that I was trying to get across.
No, it all makes sense, because I was like, hold on, what everybody talking about? And for me, the third point that I want to make on ways that I've improved as a man, and I've mentioned this on previous episodes, is you have to control your controllables. You have to control your controllables. And your controllables are your attitude, your effort, your consistency, and your emotions. If you can control those 4 things, you'll live a better life, right? That ain't the only thing you have to do, but if you can control those 4 things, your life will improve. And for me, that's one of the points that I made, something that I teach my kids, but it's also something that I'm living as well. One of the things that I understand is my attitude, if you can have a great attitude towards everything, not 9 times out of 10, but the majority of the times you can control the outcome, right? If you have the right attitude, your emotions. A lot of people are in jail because what? They simply can't control their emotions. Consistency, we've seen this in our life. Consistency has allowed us to reach some level of success. By no means we are where we want to be, but because we've been consistent, we've been able to have success thus far. So for me, control your controllables.
That's something that we've talked about time and time again on this podcast show, is just controlling the controllables. I don't need no other explanation about it. Like, that's something that people definitely need to learn how to do. And that's something that I've had to improve on. I've talked about my struggles with my emotional challenges that I've had in the past, and just understanding that it came a lot from not controlling my controllables. And that is something that has been profound in my life, is just really understanding that what is in my controls, what I can control. Everything else outside of that happens the way that the good Lord wants it to happen. And I've started to realize and live through that. So that's something that I've had to learn as well.
Yeah. So for me, I have something that I call HSWD. Shout out David in my forum. He gave me this, and something HSWD stands for homeschool with dad. So every time I'm talking to the kids, and if I say HSWD, that lets them know I need your full undivided attention, because here's a lesson that I'm going to teach you. So I'm teaching them lessons that they won't learn in school. I'm teaching lessons that they probably won't, I know they probably won't learn from their friends. And that is something, like, that's one of the core lessons that I ensure that the kids understand. You got to control your controllables, your attitude, your effort, your consistency, and your emotions. And so many people don't know how to control those 4 areas of their life, and they wonder why they live in chaos. They wonder why they live in turmoil. So
that's really good. HSWD, homeschool with dad.
HSWD.
Now that's really, really good.
So again, and then that's for all the parents that's out. Well, especially for the fellas, man. We're talking about growth. If you have kids, and for me, it's just lessons that I want them to learn. Like I said, control your controllables, showing up on time, anything that in the moment, right? If there's a lesson to learn in that moment, I say HSWD. Even when we went to the movies last night, and we seen Inside Out 2, and it was talking about a little girl, and it was living inside of her head, and she had all these different emotions within her head. And after the movie, I instantly said, "Hey girl, it's HSWD," and I gave them lessons from what I got from the movie. So yeah, always just sharing those lessons with them, because yeah, they may not remember it right then and there, they may not understand it right then and there, but I know for me personally, there are so many lessons that Uncle Raleigh, that Uncle Johnny taught us when we was young kids. I'm like, what you talking about, Unc? But then as I got older, man, I remember when Unc told me X, Y, and Z. So yeah.
Yeah. So and I like how you label it, because I think sometimes when you label things, they become more prominent. So when you say that HSWD, they know, oh, this is a moment right here, and those moments will collect over time for them, because like you said, they've collected over time for us, but we've had to think about it and when things happen. So good point. My last and the third thing that we're going to talk about today, as far as what I needed to improve on as a man, is having tough conversations. And we talked about the art of having tough conversations in episode 27. If you haven't watched it, definitely go watch it, because we break down how to have a tough conversation. And that is something that I've struggled with my entire life until I did my multiple bouts with therapy, and realizing that I don't always have to be likable to everybody. And for me, having those tough conversations have been freeing, because so often what I did in the past was I would avoid having tough conversations, be mad about it because I wasn't able to grab my balls and go talk to somebody and be a man. And for me, it was something I would go home after not having the ability to have that tough conversation and lash out at my family, which wasn't fair to them. And through therapy, I learned that it's okay to say how you feel, and it's okay to not share the same beliefs as someone else. It's okay to disagree with someone else. And that's where I learned that my fear came from, as far as not having tough conversations. Tough conversations usually come when there's some form of a disagreement, or something is not going the way that you need it to, or how the other person expected. So I'm very thankful that I've improved, and I'm easily able now to have those tough conversations so that I can avoid the lashing out at my family because I'm angry, so that I can avoid harboring things in my heart because I wasn't able to speak up. And this is something that's been very freeing for me. So I'm hoping that this conversation and these points is freeing to someone else and giving someone else permission to let go of the things that we've talked about today.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I think a point that I hope you guys did not miss. So, no, that was just a really good point.
This has been a great conversation, and like Josh said at the beginning, guys, we have way more areas of what we needed to improve, but we want to keep these episodes to a certain time frame, so therefore we keep it to 3 each person per episode. Again, if you missed last week's episode, make sure you tap in and go watch or listen to last week's episode so you can hear the other points that you need to hear to free yourself from the things that you need to free yourself from so that you can grow as well. If none of these points hit home for you, ask yourself, take a moment and reflect and ask yourself, how have I improved? What caused me to improve? And that way you can continue to think and continue to grow, continue to evolve. Any final words, my guy?
No, that's it, man.
Guys, as always, we know you got value today. Make sure you follow our gentleman's agreement. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you listen on the podcast, hit that follow button for your boys and leave us a 5-star review because we need this show to grow. We need more people to get exposure because, as you know, exposure leads to expansion. Peace.
Expose and expand. Peace.